All right, hell yeah. Now we're back at it. Now, I do have to say, though, my anxiety level's real high. Doesn't matter why. You know what I mean? It really doesn't. You know what I mean? So it is like take a moment, maybe talk a lot, a little bit about mental health. And yeah, it doesn't. You know what I mean? Well, you can figure out what the root cause of your symptoms are. But if you have a lifetime of mental illness, you know what I mean? You may not want to look at the root cause of what caused a lifetime of mental illness. You know what I mean? That's where you really have to look at the trauma in your life, and that's insane. You know what I mean? And maybe I do need to, you know what I mean, find different, ways to look at that. You know what I mean? But that is a scab. Sometimes you do not want to just rip off. But it's so interesting when you just have like just a little bit of anxiety. You're just like, whoa. I think a deep, and I'll just speak with the I statements. A deep part of me, you know what I mean, really goes back to those root causes where you're just like, holy Toledo. You know what I mean? I don't think anyone can deal with the root causes, and I really don't know what I'm not educated on solutions for dealing with trauma, dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, it took 15 years, maybe 10 years to start to realize you're like, oh, shit. Not no $1.50 there. I don't care. Planes overhead. $1.50 though. Yeah. We don't have to do that. That's just for dramatic. No, but anyway, that a lifetime of symptoms that are a mental illness potentially have a root cause, you know what I mean, by someone else. You know what I mean? Some other person, people, you know what I mean, caused that. It's insane. You know what I mean? That's why it's such a tragedy when anyone with mental illness loses their life to suicide. You know what I mean? Because we live in an unfair world. You know what I mean? Most times it's just turn the other cheek and effing run away. You know what I mean? Literally separate yourself from all the crap in life. I don't know. You know what I mean? And then dip your toes back in. You know what I mean? With a different angle, knowing that life still is just, it can be that gritty, but know it's that gritty, and maybe find a common element between. I should be speaking in the I. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking for myself. Holy Toledo. You know what I mean? How do I dip my toes back in? I think doing this, you know what I mean? Putting up, doing a little persona, it's helped. You know what I mean? It's allowed me to give me the confidence to actually do that. And it's crazy. Just the littlest bit of anxiety. It felt just like a wound just got ripped off just about an hour ago. And it's something that I might have to tactfully not ignore. You know what I mean? Tactfully say, hey, this is what's up. This is what's up. You know what I mean? And how do we move forward? You know what I mean? So that's interesting. Whew, man. And we'll see how, because yeah, and like there's no one in the house right now, and you know what I mean. I kind of need there to be for that to help me resolve that. You know what I mean? Help me resolve that anxiety. But sometimes you just got to sit with your anxiety. Holy Toledo. That's the hardest, where you're just like, man, I feel like total crap. And it's just, yes, that anxiety is interesting. I mean, and it's a symptom that is literally no different. That's the crazy thing. The symptom of anxiety is no different whether you're anxious about something fun or anxious about something that wasn't fun, like a traumatic event. And I think that's the crazy thing about it. It's hard to differentiate the two. And it's almost the hardest thing to like actually like calm down. And I do, anxiety is different than like anger. You know, it's like, let's say a little road rage. You know what I mean? Well, I can actually calm down from that pretty easily. But just kind of like the weirdness of anxiety, you're just like, oh crap, my stomach just feels god awful. And I just, you know, to me, you're just like instantly hit with, you're just like, oh, this is the absolute worst. And there's nowhere to go. You know what I mean? It's like, and sometimes I'll even feel like friggin' drunk, where you're just like, man, I can't even walk around. I have no coordination. It almost is like a seizure a little bit. You know what I mean? Where you're just like, just a little bit, maybe metaphorically, but just, well, kind of paralyzed. You're like, holy Toledo. So it's helpful to talk about it. And, yeah. And it's interesting. What I'm trying to do is not internalize it, but, man. Oh, okay, here it is. You know what I mean? Let's say you got, well, this anxiety did bring it up from the perspective of like other coworkers. Like sometimes I don't do well. You know, if everything isn't just like, you know, Disney World, you know what I mean? Just like a Disney movie where it's just like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Nice, you know what I mean? Sugar and spice, you know, I don't deal with the real world very well. You know what I mean? So I don't get it. I don't get just the absolute, where you're just like, what up? You know what I mean? I don't get where you have to deal with other people's crap. You know what I mean? And it's so interesting how someone's just like normal, like can just affect me just to the core, where it's just, they won't understand how it affects me. And it's like almost, it's like crazy, because it's just like, well, it's almost not their responsibility for me to actually figure out, you know, how to do live. You know what I mean? And that's the insane part. You know what I mean? That's why it's just like, I definitely work for myself. I have a hard time working with other people just because of that. You know what I mean? Unless it's, yeah. And that's why I always strive for, you know, a caring environment. And, but no, it's a situation that I'll have to confront today. And I do want to. But it won't be like 4 hours until I do. And then even that's like, I don't like to confront that. Because then you have to maybe chisel up a wound in someone else. You know what I mean? You're just like, holy Toledo. It's like two people come together and they just rip the wounds off. One usually gets their wounds ripped off first, you know what I mean? Just depending. It's like an emotional fight. It's you know what I mean? The first person to get anxiety is just like loses. But then there's this deep desire to just like not find a healthy solution. And I'm even just like at odds, just seeing, be like, you know, it feels like, that's why I turned on the camera, because it's just like, well, it feels like for the most part I should just like, I guess that's the only word I can use, just internalize it and move on. But I have a hard time doing that, and it sounds unhealthy. You know what I mean? The healthy thing seems to like, hey, bring it up. You know what I mean? And then move on. But for this situation, I really have to work real hard on make sure and I don't gaslight, scapegoat, you know what I mean, someone else. And if I take the idea of coworkers, which I've had issues with in the past, and I've just had to leave, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, if this is the rough and tumble atmosphere of the workplace, then I'm out, you know what I mean? I guess that's just life, you know what I mean? I'm going to move on, and hopefully I find a place, and I have, is working for my friggin' self. You know what I mean? We treat ourselves well. You know what I mean? And that's just where just like, holy Toledo. And that's the root of it. That's why I don't want to gaslight. It's just like, whoa, you're not treating yourself well. You know what I mean? First off, but it's these ideas where you see people not treating themselves well. You're just like, whoa. You know what I mean? I see how you're treating yourself, and now you're treating me that way, and it ain't happening. You know what I mean? I got to put my foot down, and I did in the moment. It was just an emotional fight, just real fast. But, that's kind of what it felt like to me. So it's just interesting. It's interesting to have to confront that. And, insert whatever scenario. We've all been there where you're just like, man, I'm full of anxiety. And that's where it's just like the road rage I usually am pretty good about. It's just like, it can be the same thing. Just the other day, like I almost saw, kind of an accident, and that gave me anxiety. Because it's just, I wasn't, there was nothing I could do about it, but I had to kind of sit with just the reality of life. Sometimes that's just, I almost saw, it was crazy. I almost saw a pedestrian get into an accident with the oncoming car, and it was just like, damn, that was too much for me. You know what I mean? Sometimes you reach your limit. You're just like, like, that's too much. I'm a realist, you know what I mean? If something happens, it happens. But it's almost when something doesn't happen, that is like like safety people. If something almost happened, you treat it like it did. And it's so interesting. Yeah, the raft company, one of the let's just say a raft company, was mentioning, it's just like, there was, there was maybe some close calls where we're just like, no, we need to do some extra training to get people up because we got high water and high waters come, blah, blah, blah. But it was just like, oh, okay, so that actually happened. Treat it like you did have a death on the river and pretend like you have that on the books. And because it's a company in a river, because no one actually paddles the high water on this river, they go to a separate river until that river actually comes down, and then they go back on it. Well, if you actually avoid high water on a river, you can just really reduce your chance of customer deaths just extraordinarily. You know what I mean? So then you can have this huge, 30, 40 year track record of no deaths on this, commercial deaths on this river. But that's a bad way to look at it. You know what I mean? Pretend like you already had one. And I do. 2 years ago, I just pretend like they did. You know what I mean? And I actually ingrained that into my head that they did. It's fictitious death. But it's so interesting how I think that's helpful. Because then you move forward, it's so interesting. I don't know how that applies to my anxiety right now. But I am calming down, and it's kind of interesting. And I'm glad I'm making this video. I haven't made too many mental health videos. I don't know if I'm going to play piano. Hopefully I do. You know what I mean? Hopefully I'll play the piano. Because I want to see if that reduces the stress. Maybe actually, show some emotion in the piano. Because even if I get drunk on the keys, that's fine. But seriously, anxiety is just like, I don't know where to be. Like, I don't know how to walk around. It's crazy. It's just, it's that nuts. And that's the thing, is like, I want to confront what happened, but I don't want it to be, I think, like, I'll have to look up the word affront. I was just trying to be creative with my word, but I don't know adjectives very well. But that might be an adverb. I have no idea. But anyway, it's okay to bring something up. Use I statements. Everything has a bigger picture, for sure. That's the issue that I want to bring up. It's just like, okay, I think there was something small, but I think there was a bigger message. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of time. Any good, friendship, you know what I mean? Just any two people that have like a relationship of any sort. You know what I mean? You gotta work small things out. Make sure small things don't just get just ridiculous. And that's the anxiety. It's just like, holy Toledo, like that was, it seemed just real left field, and I just I don't know. Yep. Like I have mental illness, family members have mental illness, and it brings it up. I almost would like to take NAMI's. NAMI offers a family to family course of like other people with family members that have to deal with other family members that have mental illness. I don't think the word is a deal with, but you know what I mean. We're all figuring it out. You know what I mean. So, but it's just good to be like, oh, that's how you roll. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, Yep. This hit me deep. It really is. It's like, yep. Yeah, I think that was the bulk of the anxiety of like, damn. Yeah. And there is no tipping point here. Everything's not going to go to crap, but it's just like being okay, especially with family to family, with your own mental illness, like being okay with having an idea that, you know what I mean, things don't just magically get better, and life isn't about, you know what I mean, this crescendo up of just better, better, better to like the peak of best. You know what I mean? It's usually a bell curve. Yeah, or just hopefully just a steady plateau. You know what I mean? Steady flow. I don't know. Yeah, bell curve is probably not a very good way, but there's an idea of like, yeah, like physical ailments, even mental illness. Sometimes they don't get better, especially, you know, on the way out. If you're on the way out, you know, you can't really say to someone, oh, it's going to get better. You know what I mean? It's going to get worse, you know what I mean, physically. But, you know what I mean? But then there's the aspect of humans that, you know, there's like this, you know what I mean, easy button. You know what I mean? Life always has an easy button, and you can choose to push it for yourself, and you can choose to push it for someone else. You know what I mean? So, yeah. That's where it's just like, yeah, I don't want to internalize, because it's too much for me to deal with. You know what I mean? I need an outlet, and so we'll see if we'll see how I deal with this. But it's just good for me to talk about it for like an hour. Yeah, I don't know. It's just it puts me a little bit at ease. It's one of the things that I'm okay with just talking, and because yeah, right now I'm just there's no way I want to like walk around like it just like my day was just going just fine, my whole week, my whole month, and then just one incident, just one instance, just rocks the whole freaking boat. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I just might be just like a little soft teddy bear. You know what I mean? Where I can't handle things. But I do know I have track record of mental illness, and I do know that things affect me. I am more sensitive. That's for sure. But I tried to. That's why I do my own thing. Like we're not going to treat myself that way. Holy Toledo. You know what I mean? So. That's where I just got into a little situation where it's just like, no, that's like, yeah, it felt like a road rage moment, but it's just with someone you know, and it's just like, no, I don't get it. But I don't want to also just be like a mirror for that too. You know what I mean? That it was half me, half the other person. You know what I mean? Or to actually own up to my half, to be like, no, it's not just the other. You know, it's like, you know, it's even if it's deep wounds from just ages ago. You know what I mean? Hey, there is some wounds here that is just like, whoa. And if it's not, if it's just superficial, then hell yeah, effing don't. I can't be treated that way. No, 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 no. You know what I mean? Like there's just absolutely not. Like I would never treat myself that way, and I don't know. See, but that's the gaslighting. It's just like, that's like, well, do you treat yourself? It looks like you treat yourself this way. You know what I mean? So it seems like, no, that's like, you know, be more, you know, it's just like you know, you do something different, and then I can tolerate it. See, that's where I'm having trouble with. And, and this isn't, I mean, this is the story of everyone's life. This is why relationships are just the worst. I mean, of any sort. Just because, yeah, that's going to be the person you get to gaslight, scapegoat the most. Whatever the adjectives are, I'm not very good at adjectives. We're just kind of, you got to feel me. But yeah, it's just like, what? You know what I mean? Where if you were just by yourself, you know what I mean? Are you going to treat yourself that way? You know what I mean? Are you going to scapegoat a portion of yourself? Are you going to gaslight yourself? You know what I mean? It's just like, but that's where I'm going to bring it up. You know what I mean? Gently, softly, and be like, oh, it's almost impossible. That's what I'm saying. Let's say it's almost impossible to even bring that up, and let's say it was just a nothing. It wasn't. Like, it really affected me. It's going to affect my whole week if I feel like if I don't bring it up. But it's like, that seems like a weakness in me that is just like, what? You know, anytime just like a feather gets ruffled, you know, it has to be like this whole deal. Yeah, I'm going to be a loss at words bringing it up without scapegoating. And I think we all know the scenario. You know what I mean? It's an ingrained habit, and it's just like, holy Toledo. Because I've seen, you know, let's say with the same individual, you know, getting treated by someone else. It's like, no, don't treat that person that. You're scapegoating that person. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, it's not just this person's problem. You know what I mean? So I have identified that at least within the last couple of years to be like, no, like, especially someone that's, very much so going to be the scapegoat to make sure it's just like hell yeah, it's like to actually stand up for that person tenfold when that does happen. So I'm at a, so it's really hard for me to actually look outside myself as someone else, like as me outside, looking at the situation and be like, oh no, I'd let that go. You know what I mean? So so this is so interesting. This is a fascinating talk about mental illness. Because let's yeah, this is the classic. You know what I mean? Because I have a lot of friends with mental illness, and I definitely like that friend base. And just in casual conversation, well, and then friends in general, hell yeah, just like where you're just like, yeah, we're just friends, you know what I mean? I don't care what you do, you know what I mean? If you got 2 years in prison, I'd come visit you, you know what I mean? I wouldn't, you know, whatever, you know, I'm sure you did something, but it's just like, yeah, when it's like a family member, you're, why'd you do that, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's why I always use that as just like the pinnacle of like how life should be. Everyone should be that true friend of just like, yeah, I get life is life, and sure, but you know what I mean? Would you still visit someone in prison if they, you know, did something 2 years worth in prison? I don't know. But yeah, there's no extra baggage. It's just like, oh, okay. So then when sometimes their life is just chaotic, you're just like, oh, you know what I mean? It doesn't faze me. But it's so interesting when you get closer ties, when it's a significant other, family members, you know what I mean? That kind of close-knit community. Then you're just like, oh, dang. Like, I feel your pain, because it's like almost like a, but yet, but that's something that I feel should be worked on, because there's an element of us that feels like someone else is an extension of us, and that we have influence over how they act and respond. And so we get kind of attached that that's like our duty, our responsibility to, you know what I mean? Like, it is a control issue. I've always known that. It's just like, no, yeah, it's just like, so that's where it's just like having that baseline of just like, yeah, you're true friends. I don't care what you do. You know what I mean? You're still going to be friends and stuff. You're like, whoa, crap happened to you. Like, oh, I don't know how to help you, but I actually think it's beneficial that I'm fairly neutral. You know what I mean? People love that. You're just like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I can't get too wrapped up and emotional in it, but you know what I mean? That's because we're true friends. You know what I mean? So I like that as a baseline, and that can spill over to other aspects of your life. That's why you're not going to scapegoat your true friend. You're not going to be like, oh, you're responsible. Life is life. You know, it's happening to all of us. So it's just interesting how there's this desire to, but then there's this. So this is an interesting one, because then if you let yourself be an extension of someone else, that's the situation I think that's kind of going on here. Is there is, so I'm working for my family, and there is like a work. Oh, so that's the whole issue. I didn't want to really kind of bring it up, but it's the issue. It's the idea of like, yes, I'm working for myself, but I'm not paying myself. You know, I'm working for my family. So yes, I do have a work relationship with my family, and that's a situation that just came up. It was just a real, just emotional knot. But actually, I'm so glad I did this hour and a half, because it took me an hour and a half to, or whatever. What are we at, like 30 minutes? 30 minutes to actually get to like, oh no, this was a work relationship. That's why I brought up the issues about boss and coworker. You know what I mean? This was just a boss employee relationship, and it's family. You know what I mean? But it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, so it's something that was the issue. It's just like, that's why I felt so much anxiety, because it was just something just right on the surface, just like a little bit of someone else's anxiety, and then you're just like, whoa, okay, I see your anxiety, but whoa, I internalized it because it was there was a lot going. There's a lot to unpack. And see, that's where I was just like, oh, it feels like there's a lot to unpack here, but I don't want that person to unpack it if it's going to cause them, wow. So I'm almost over my anxiety, because it was just hard to label it. What I saw was someone that looked like they were struggling. You know what I mean? That's the family mental illness thing. It's like, okay. Yeah, it had nothing to do with me at all, potentially. And I really have to go back to that, because I got schizoaffective disorder, bipolar 1. You know what I mean? So in the height of manias, yeah, we were full-blown schizophrenia. But there's an element, even bipolar, there's an element of being like, whoa, the flashlight's on me when someone else is having a bad day or something. All right, holy Toledo. So the GoPro will overheat if it's inside. You know what I mean? Or we're ambient. So I'm just open. So it's good to throw a fresh battery in every 20 minutes, because the battery's cold, and the battery is what heats up, and that heats up your camera. But taking off this door, I swear you can actually cool that battery. I bet you, that's what I'm hoping. Even just taking off this door, I bet you I could run battery after battery through here, because the batteries last 50 minutes on these GoPro batteries. But anyway, so yeah, so I think I've kind of answered my question. It's just like, oh, why it freaked me out was well, it freaked me out because it's just like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with that work. Like that's not the work relationship that I want. That's actually like the crummiest. You know what I mean? That's what I tried to leave to work for myself. Now yeah, and that's why it's just like, oh man, you know what I mean? I don't think I'm gonna get too emotional, but yeah, I could just cry right now. You know what I mean? Because there's an aspect of just like, whoa, you know what I mean? Yeah, hopefully I don't just melt down. I don't want to. I don't want to melt down. But I just want to get the thought in my head because, yeah, if it's emotional, yeah. It's, I guess we might have to continue this. Yeah, catch on the flip side. All right, so heck yeah. Now my mom just walked in the door, so I got to talk to her, and it's just like, yeah. So that was real helpful. You know what I mean? Get the whole picture, and I think I'm gonna do good. You know what I mean? I brought up the idea of kind of pointing the finger at someone else when I got anxiety, and I don't think that was the scenario. Sometimes it's just hard when you have to feel someone else's anxiety. You know what I mean? And I think that's the take-home point here. And that's why I started the video. I think it's the hardest thing is just to let something go. And that's why I went back to it of just like, oh yeah, when you're talking to your friend and like, well, especially even if your friend's not having a bad day, but your friend's just like, oh yeah, this other person I know, they're having a real hard time. And you're just like, oh, okay. You know, I could care less. You know what I mean? And so I always try to use that as my baseline. Not that caring less is a good thing, but it is. It can be helpful. You're just like, yeah, okay, just yeah, it's a let go moment. I mean, that's a God moment. You know what I mean? Let go, let God. You know what I mean? So heck yeah, that's the hardest thing in life. Just to be like, especially with the closest people in your life, of just being like, oh, I gotta let this one go. And it's nice to actually have someone to share it with that wasn't that person. That was a good thing. And it was okay to share that scenario to get a different perspective. And it was just like, yeah, same thing. It was talking to a friend that's just like, what, your other friend's having a big deal? Yeah, I don't think that's a big deal at all. I think that's hilarious that you even think anything of it. And it's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's insane because I thought this was some anxiety that's going to last for a week. Sometimes you don't know when the anxiety is going to go away. Like I said, if I was walking around, I swear I'd feel drunk. But heck yeah, I'm just glad this had a pretty quick resolution for a half-hour video. And I'm going to play some piano, but I don't think I'll put that in this. I think this is a mental health video. I haven't made a mental health video in a long time. And I think the audience would appreciate, yeah, just a mental health. It's all the same stuff. You know what I mean? I throw out the same talking points, but it's just like I'm trying to... This is the interesting thing. Like, whoa, I'm actually using my talking points. Because there's some talking points that they're easy to use because they don't involve other people. But when something actually involves someone else, it's just like, whoa, that was so fast just to be like, oh, well, they need to do something different. You know what I mean? And, no, and we all know life's hard. You know, we all know no one wants their day to be a little bit harder, and sometimes just letting things go, if you're able to, which is almost darn near impossible. It like literally is, you know what I mean? And it's the whole Buddhist thing of letting it go from the get-go, you know what I mean? Not carrying, you know, the whole adage of carrying that thing. You've been carrying that thing all the way back there, you know what I mean? But anyway, so that's so fascinating. And I think this is cool because it's like mental health solutions in action. And it's cool because there's the ones that I'm good at, just that involve me. If it's just about me, hell yeah, we're going to do what we can do. But if it involves someone else, you're just like, whoa, that's part of the equation now? Like something that I can't control, you know what I mean? You're just like, oh, well, that's a lot harder. So we might make more videos in the future because that's going to be the hard. That's all of our life's, you know, just like, oh, darn it. You know what I mean? This actually isn't just about me. It's about something more, you know what I mean, holistic, where you're just like, darn it. I don't have control over it. Let go, let God. Anyway, so yeah, I think this video is a success. And yeah, my demeanor's totally changed. Well, where I could have, like, I'm glad the battery overheated. That was a metaphysic moment where you're just like, oh, okay, kind of shifting gears a little bit. And yeah, because we were gonna go down kind of like a different route there, but now we got to the point where we're just like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go on my day. Yeah, this is so interesting. That's fascinating, because we identified that, yeah, there wasn't anything there. Yes, there was just a little bit of you know, kind of brushing shoulders. Yeah, brushing shoulders. New York City. You know, it's a stranger. Who cares? But it's just like, whoa, that person knew me. You know what I mean? Or did it mean anything? You know what I mean? I don't think so. I think we're just got the blinders on, and sometimes you just, you know, get to see too much. See too much of the window in someone's soul, where you're just like, nope, it's got to be your friend's story of a friend. Who cares? All right. So, man, I'm glad I'm still talking about it, because it is a tough one. Now I'm just like rolling through my brain. Is just like, whoa, life's going to be full of those moments where you're just like, shit, I got to let that go too. I got to let this go. And you're just like, it's the same scenario, but we did a pretty hard one. And we got that practice underneath us, so we should be able to find the solution a little faster. Like, I feel less dizzy. I could walk around and not feel drunk. I could actually play the piano and not have to do some, you know, emotional mumbo jumbo just to even get through, or just like run out of breath or something. All right, so all right, now we're just rambling, but we came to a good solution. Thanks for joining me. Mental health video. Haven't done one in a while, and guess what? That's a video.